Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nopes and Opes. For this intro, I just want to let you guys know that this is an emotional episode. I talk about some things going on in my life, specifically with my grandparents, and of the topic of dementia. And I ugly cry. Sorry about that. Well, not sorry. More sorry for myself because I don't like how I cry. I wish it was sexy. Like I just did a smolder and one single tear rolled down my cheek. But that's not the truth. The truth is that my face swells and get really red and it just kind of scrunches up. So it's not what I like to see, but it is the reality that I have in my life. Um, to not make too many jokes, but I think this episode's really nice because we talk about the importance of sharing a meal together, and then it kind of gets into a big part of my family because meals in my family have always been such a huge thing, even from a young age, and that's what kind of leads us into that conversation about my grandparents. So just kind of be prepared. At like the 30-minute mark, that's where the conversation kind of starts. At like 36 minutes, that's where, I kind of break down. But I just have to say a huge appreciation to Highland for just doing this with me, being able to talk with me, and always being supportive. So he is awesome and very much appreciated. So with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoy the episode. And if you want to hear more about it or share any thoughts, feel free to email us at NopeOpePod@gmail.com. And yeah, guys, we hope you enjoy the show. Welcome everyone to Nopes and Opes. I'm joined by I'm joined by my lovely co-host Highland.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had a brain fart. I don't know what happened. But here we are. We're gonna talk about something that I think everyone needs and enjoys in life, and that is food.
Well, I'm actually super excited to talk about this too. And I'm actually more excited to hear some stories. And I think I'll have some stories to share as well. But
No.
I think, like, just in talking to your dad and your family, I think you have quite a bit to offer in this regard. But
Yeah.
I think the cool thing about this for us is that our family is kind of closely aligned, even though the age difference is significant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's unusual, right?
Yeah.
For you being so young to have the experiences that I had growing up, I think is not common anymore.
Yeah.
So, but I think, I feel like I'm saying this every episode that we record, but I think this is a really important one.
Good.
So,
Good. So, speaking of food, Lance is currently off camera eating. So he's joining in us. He'll probably eat and then come take a nap. Actually, he's chosen a new place to nap, which is on the bunk bed above because he can leap up there. So we'll see if he joins us. But today, in terms of food, we're not just talking about like what our favorite foods are, which I'm sure we can express if we want to, but more about having meals together, the importance of sharing food, breaking bread, however you want to phrase it. But we kind of were in discussion with my dad this morning, and it kind of just got me thinking because we had mentioned this idea of sharing a meal together. And that's something that me and Highland have always enjoyed. I mean, that's a lot of how we spent some time when we were in Minnesota and how we would try to like step away from the stress of financial inability and just, work and whatnot as we would, kind of share food. And it's been mentioned on the podcast before about the kind of benefits of it and how it helps get people to kind of trust you and create a bond. And so we're going to explore this topic today, and I'm excited to share some stories. Off the bat, do you have any questions or anywhere you want to start? I mean, I always have an idea, but just let me give you the attempt to start us off here.
well, no, I could definitely start us off. I definitely have some thoughts, but I just kind of like the title of this in my head is the importance of sharing food or sharing a meal. And I am just interested in, if I asked you, what is the importance of sharing food? What
Mhm.
what is the significance for you personally?
Mhm.
I'm just interested in what your response to that would be.
Yeah. Well, so you hadn't asked me that, so I'll get into it now. But so for me, it's like a sense of connection, right? So a lot of how I've developed what I believe like my personality and who I am as a person came from having having meals at the dinner table. So to kind of get, paint a picture, if you will. So my family always has dinner at like the same time, around like 5 o'clock, and we would sit down at the dinner table and all eat together. Like we wouldn't sit in front of a TV. We would turn the TV off if it was on, like in the background, so it would be silent, right? And we would just sit down and make sure that we could eat together. My dad was never into sports, so it wouldn't be like he'd be watching the game and like not paying attention. Like we would always be actively aware, and it kind of taught me a lot. It taught me how to communicate, articulate, how to share stories. How when I was at the dinner table and I would share stories, I would get my family to laugh at whether what was something I said in my day or like a story about something goofy I did or embarrassing. And so it actually helped develop a lot of who I am as a person, is just sharing meals together. And that's like my form of connecting with people. And so it's very sacred to me. That's why like, people ask like, what's your favorite like first date and whatnot? And unfortunately, it's not a great answer because people usually don't like they feel too like there's too much commitment in sitting down and sharing a meal together. But like that's my favorite date. Like anytime I've ever been on a date, the most fun ones I have is when we're just sitting down at a nice restaurant. We order some food, or like I cook some food, and we can just sit and enjoy it and just like get to know each other. It's a very kind of old school mentality, but like that's kind of who I am at heart. But most people are like, "Oh, I want to make sure like we're going out and doing something so we can be active." And like, if at any point I want to leave, like I can. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
get that. So there's a lot of pressure in it, but
Yeah. Yeah. I think unfortunately, like just one comment real quickly on that
yeah,
that I think is really sad is that like girls, especially like when you're going out with a
yeah,
guy, you have to worry about safety.
yeah,
And like, I'm like, but in my mind, I'm like, but I'm a good dude. Like, you don't have to worry about it.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, no, you do.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you have to
mean,
be careful with that.
so you can't just trust strangers. You gotta
Yeah.
earn that trust. So I'm not just out here taking women on first dates at restaurants, but it's what I like and I eventually work towards. But to answer your question, it just really developed a lot of my personality, and that's kind of what I haven't enjoyed. Now, what about for you? What about sitting down to have a meal is important for you, or what does it bring to your life?
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting because my one word answer is connection. I think one of the things that we're really lacking in the world today is real connections with each other. Like you and I have talked a little bit about how Facebook and Instagram and social media has created all of these connections, but they're not actually real or
Yeah,
beneficial in any way, or they're kind of false connections, whatever kind of label you want to use. But yeah, for me, like sitting down, like one of my favorite things to do, which is strange because as a kid, I remember just sitting down, like like we had to sit down for
yeah,
dinner, right? We were forced to. And for me, not being very social and not being very articulate and not wanting to share a lot and being pretty private, it was like freaking torture to me. Like my mom and dad would just be like, "How was your day? Like what happened? This and that." And I think we even had to like go around and like say three things about our day or whatever. And I
no,
just
interesting.
remember just just dreading like, oh God, like I just talking like two people or whatever.
Yeah,
And in a lot of ways, it was torture. And those, when I look back on my childhood, those are some of the things that I miss the most now. And in that same regard, those are my favorite moments, like with my friends. Like, I mean, you've got to experience a little bit of it, like in Minneapolis, but
yeah,
like just sitting down and like the food that I make is very simple. Like I like basically my friends, like you included, probably just make fun of me because they're just like, Highland, like how do you make this? And I have no idea because I just throw everything in my refrigerator into a bowl,
yep,
and then maybe I have some chips or some crackers or whatever, and it's just like whatever it is, and like that to me is some of the best moments that I can experience, and which is strange to me because I always think of myself as pretty private, kind of a loner, kind of a introvert, right? Like needing like space to be on my own to kind of recharge. But
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite memories, the things that my friends talk about are like, yeah, remember when we were sitting at the fire pit and we were just like, we cooked up this food and like, or we shared these drinks or whatever it was, and it was just like, yeah, that's again and again. That's what we talk about, and that's what we. Those are the things that are most enjoyable, and those are the things that create the best memories for me and for those in my kind of sphere of influence in my circle of friends. And I just think there's there's something magical about sitting down and sharing food with others.
Yeah. Well, so fun, kind of a fun story, right? So me and Emmett my younger brother went to the same college, right? And so we had a specific table that the lacrosse team would always sit at. And so me and Emmett would come into lunch. And, it's like it's a cafeteria. So people are coming in at all different times based on their class schedule and whatnot. And so me and Emmett would sit down and we'd kind of get there early and we would just start eating and whatnot. But we would talk just like we would at the dinner table. It was very much of the same note. But then me and Emmett would sit there for like 2, 3 hours at
Yeah,
the lunch table,
yeah,
and we would get different groups of like who would come
yeah,
in
yeah,
to lunch. Because what was weird to us, and I mean, it might be normal to the people, but they would sit down, they'd eat their food, and then they'd leave, and
yeah,
then they'd be done. And I was like, no, 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 no. We would like sit, tell stories, talk about this, talk about that, talk about what's going on with practice, whatever it may be, right? We would just talk. And we, in doing so, like got other people to sit with us and enjoy it. And it just helped, I think, with those individuals like, oh, this is like kind of fun. Like I remember one night, our buddy Wyatt, who lived in Minnesota, right? So he had this paper he was doing and he just was like, just going at it. He had been writing it all day, just really focusing in on it, and was just reaching a point where he was like, just was had enough. And me, Emmett, and Keely all went up to him when he was in the library and was like, "Hey, man, we're gonna go get some food at the cafeteria. You're welcome to sit with us. Just unwind, de- deconnect, and like have some fun. Right? You've been
yeah.
at it for hours. Like you need to unwind." He's like, all right, I'll think about it. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll be there, right? We show up, we sit down, we have food. And 10 minutes later, Wyatt walks in and we sit down. We had a great night. We all just like talked about whatnot, and it really helped him kind of like decompress and just like it. That's another thing. Like, it's a huge stress reliever because you can feel this sense of community and this kind of like support group and that like safe
Yeah,
space to
yeah,
just
yeah.
really kind of like relax. Like, there's no real anxiety. And I mean, it depends on who you eat with and whatnot. Like, if you have people that are not good in that environment, then it causes some issues. But I flourish at the dinner table. Like that's where I
Well,
have some of my most fun.
yeah. I mean, for me, in a lot of ways, I think I'm more European than I am American because there's a lot of things that the Europeans do that I really connect with, and
Yeah,
and there's a lot of things that Americans do that I don't necessarily. But
same.
one of the things, like I was lucky enough in college to spend time abroad in Italy, and I mean, like I loved this. I mean, every meal that you sat down to, you would cook together and just the whole process actually. Like you'd be at school and you'd come home and every day or every 2 days you'd go to the market and you would buy fresh cheese, you would buy milk, you would buy, pasta or whatever. And if they were out of something, they were out of it, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't like permanent 24 hours open. Like if they were out of milk for that day, no milk, man.
right.
You had to like make something else or whatever it was, right? And I love that. I love that just in itself. Like not every to have a refrigerator in Italy at that time was a little bit unique. Like you didn't
Mm,
have you weren't able to be able to kind of preserve things for weeks at a time. Like
right.
if you didn't use it up that night or within those first 2 3 nights, it was like, oh, you had to throw it away or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just so like the process would begin from that moment on, like going into the market, kind of planning out what you're going to eat. Then you'd get home, you'd open up a bottle of wine, you'd make the pasta together. You just share stories. Like we had a Max, uh, well, Massimiliano was his name,
Hmm.
Massimiliano Balbi. He was great, man. He was our kind of house mate or whatever. Like
Okay.
he took care of us and just kind of and I think there were 5 of us in the house, and but yeah, he would just tell us stories and just he was super funny and like just loved to drink wine and just super social and just a really really good dude. And but the whole process, I mean, from beginning to make dinner to ending dinner could be anywhere from 3, 4, 5 hours,
Yeah.
right? And then we do something afterwards. But it was all about just connecting, just being a team. Like it brought everybody together. Everybody would sit together. Everybody would tell stories. Everybody would talk. Everybody helped cook out. Everybody helped kind of plan, and it was just yeah. Those are some of my favorite memories, and those I think that experience mm, probably informed my thinking on this subject more than anything, and it maybe like that experience made me appreciate dinners with my family more
Yeah.
as well because I realized like how much I missed actually just sitting down with my whole family and now I just kind of feel like every chance I do get to sit down with like a big group of friends, it's like cherish this moment, buddy.
Yeah.
Like this doesn't happen as much as it should in the world anymore. All right, and see you, Lance. Um, and these moments are special.
Yeah.
Like don't let them pass. Like this is a moment that doesn't come very often, and this is a moment that you are going to remember.
Yeah, being at the dinner table for me, it's like it's sacred ground. So if you're invited to the dinner table at my house with
Yeah.
my parents and my dad gets to cook for you, it's like you've made it into the inner circle. Like cherish that because it's not easy to get into that. And like for instance, Emmett is bringing his girlfriend. I guess we could label her as that. I mean, not in
I'm
a.
not
I'm
I'm
not
not
saying that in a negative way. I
I'm
mean,
not gonna say anything.
their relationship is an interesting thing. It's their own, so I don't know what it is, but
Well, can I just ask you a real quick question?
yeah, what's up?
This is because you have more knowledge.
Hmm.
But and Emmett, I don't want
I don't think
like
he listens anymore. I'm gonna
I,
be honest.
I don't know anything about yours. But what's a situationship?
Oh, so situationship is essentially right. I think that it's such a broad term, but it's when people like are doing all the things that you would do when you're dating, but you don't label yourselves as dating, right? So like you would,
Like, is that a real like?
it
I
happens.
feel like everybody's in a situationship now.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing. Like people aren't doing labels. Like they don't want to commit to something, but they like the aspects of dating. Like people like having a buddy to go to the grocery store with, or they'll sleep together. Or they might like
Oh,
come over and spend the night with each other. Like there's all those sides of it, but you're like we're not exclusively dating, right? But
huh.
then it's also like it could be deemed with people that can't have commitment issues. There's all sorts of things,
Oh,
right? So
okay.
situationships is this kind of like broad term that kind
Okay.
of
I
gets
just
into
heard
that.
that word a lot recently, and I didn't.
Yeah, I have as well, and I mean, I haven't had any experience with it, but it's a thing. It's
Okay.
a thing for some people.
All
But
right.
so Emmett's bringing his, we'll call her girlfriend, into town, and this is the first time she'll get to like be with all the family, like sit and have like a meal with us, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a big thing. This is a step.
This is a big
So
yeah.
that's
This
a
is a
big
big
thing.
step.
So and I try to pair her. I try to like prep her by really just being my authentic self by like because it's kind of like a comedy show. Like we'll do like bits, we're telling stories, like we'll reenact things, like ream into each other, we tease each other a lot. Like it's not for the lighthearted. Like it's but
Well, I've just had the experience of you and your mom and dad,
mhm.
and it's been pretty tolerable. Like it hasn't been, I don't think as, but I think if you add Emmett and Mackenzie to the mix, sorry if I wasn't supposed to say
That doesn't
the
matter.
name, um, but yeah, I would be interested. I'll be interested to hear the
Yeah, yeah.
stories about how that goes.
Well, when we're all together, we all like it all amplifies,
Yeah,
right? When the whole crew is together, it's all,
yeah,
we'll talk about this story, we'll bring this up, we'll tease that person for that, we'll say this, we'll say that. Like no one is safe. Everyone gets made fun of,
yeah,
right? Which is kind of nice because it also defined kind of my and like you've kind of seen this morning and whatnot, how we deal with humor in this household
yeah.
with like problems because that's also why like my energy is pretty low because a lot of the stuff we talked about between the last episode to now,
Yeah,
pretty heavy stuff, and
really, really heavy.
it drained me.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of trying to come back from it.
yeah, yeah.
But we deal with all of those kind of things with humor. Like we try our best to see the light or the
Well,
light in life, I guess.
I think that's like bringing it back to food for me is it not only um, creates a connection, but it also like in a very real sense
No,
nourishes your physical body, but it also like not only the food but the experience of sharing the food
no,
like nourishes your soul a
no.
lot. And like I think the I think the cool thing about maybe feeling a little bit down,
Mm-hmm.
about feeling a little bit heavy about the topics is, to me, that's actually a cool sign that you and your dad and I and your mom sometimes, like, we feel comfortable enough to get to those points now where we
No,
can go to some pretty heavy places.
no.
But I think for me that comes from the first experiences of sitting down at the table and getting to know each other and sharing that first meal and
No.
just being like, oh, okay, like I recognize you, I accept you, and I'm willing to kind of like journey down the path a little bit further
Yeah.
with you. And I think that's a unique experience in sharing food.
Yeah.
You don't get that in other experiences.
Well, and like I was saying earlier, like that's my like it's sacred. That's like this like the inner circle. Like that to me is like trust. Like
Yeah,
if you get invited into my home and you get to eat with me, like I trust you enough that I'm gonna share you with my family.
yeah,
Because my family's everything to me,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And to see kind of like the friendship that we've developed and to see how you interact with my family now has been really like fun
yeah.
for me and just cool
Been fun for
in
me
general.
too.
Yeah. So again, sounded more and more like my 50-year-old boyfriend, but it's all right. It's all right. Here we are. But yeah, it's just like it's so there's been so many fun moments and like even we have developed our own little tradition. So anytime Highland comes down, Friday we kind of like eat something together or something like that, and then Saturday morning
Yeah,
we go and get Trefsker's donuts. We have
yeah.
some coffee. We get some Trefsker's donut. We eat the donuts. We love them. We always look forward to them.
Well, and I mean, talking about an experience, right? Like that, just like sitting on, like, there's no way to kind of accurately depict this picture, but you have like the way that your house is set up,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully people can get this
Talk about the
idea.
fishbowl.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
the fishbowl. Like, if you want to describe it,
yeah, yeah. So,
it's really a cool
so
experience.
we have a lot of big windows in our house, and so at the front of our house there is this. What would you say? It's maybe like 8 by 11
Didn't we
size
measure it one
window.
time?
I think so.
Yeah, I think.
It's a pretty big window, right? It's
Yeah,
very large. It's like a 85-inch plasma screen TV, but it just looks out into the front of the yard and like the neighborhood and whatnot.
for me, it's the best TV screen ever.
Yeah,
I love it.
everyone agrees, right?
Like, I love watching just the world.
And previously, right, before I went to college, that space was just like there was a window and there was a couch. So, like, let's say the window is here for the people viewing, it's in front of you, right? To the right. So, if you're looking forward, you're looking out the window. To the right, there's this chair in the corner that kind of faces towards you. There's a couch that's turned backwards. It's not facing out towards the window, that faces the TV. It's in an L shape. And that's how it used to be. And then I went to college. I bought this like dual chair, like recliner, kind of lazy boy esque thing. And I brought it back home. And my dad was like, "Where are we going to put this thing?" And I was like, "Let's just put it right here." And it just faces out the window. And everyone was like, "We're going to throw it away. We'll eventually get rid of it." It is a centerpiece in this home because what happens is we'll come sit down in the morning
Yeah.
and you can sit and you can recline in it. And you can just look out this window. And there's also another chair for someone to sit. So you can kind of just be in this space where nature's part of it. And you can also just connect and talk. And so it just becomes this like in the morning. And even when my brothers are home, like that's where we all kind of like gather
Yeah.
and kind of like start to chat. And like it's kind of like a sitting room, if you will. But it's just kind of been manufactured into that.
No, but for me, like Saturday mornings, to be able to sit there with a cup of coffee and a freaking delicious donut, man. Like if you ever come to Peoria, you really
Trefskers, please sponsor the podcast. We
yeah.
are it's huge proponents of your donuts.
Yeah, you really, really like if you don't go to Trefsker's Donuts, you're kind of missing out on life. I'm
Yeah.
sorry for you. But no, I mean that like that just kind of perfectly exemplifies exactly what we're talking about. The experience of just sitting down and just enjoying the experience of not only like eating, but just like the whole experience of connecting with the food, with the people, with the experience, with the nature outside. Like you also like one of my favorite things about your house, and I talk about this all the time, is the hummingbirds.
Yeah.
Like you have the hummingbird feeder outside, and first of all, I think hummingbirds are freaking amazing birds, like just amazing animals. But just to be able to watch, like I could sit, yeah, like I just, yeah, love that experience. I mean, that's just like for me to sit on my porch and just be able to kind of watch the world go by is also one of my favorite experiences. But like when I come to Peoria, I actually look forward to like like the one of the very first things I do when I walk in this house is to just sit down in that recliner chair and just kind of kick back and be like, dang, like I made it. Like here I am, and just
Yeah.
kind of like put myself in this environment and just like soak it all up.
And it is just this space that creates this comfortability, right? What I love about homes, right? I'm very big on where how I want my home to look like in the future and whatnot. And I like to take a lot of things that I've seen in like my grandparents' past house and homes that I'm in, and specifically in this house, is it just is like this center just to like share and talk. Like Highland was sitting in one chair that was facing towards me and my dad as we're sitting in the recliners, and you can admire the beauty of nature, but you can also have a super deep talk about what's going on in our lives and whatnot
Yeah.
because um, there's a lot going on, and I'm sure I'll share it on the podcast here soon. But yeah, it just is this nice space that you can connect, and I think that's the same that comes at the dinner table, right? It's you're all facing each other. You have this sense of being able to just only see each other, and you can connect and you can unplug from phones, TV, the world, and just kind of like really get to like what's going on with you, what's going on with me, how, what's
Well,
affected you, what's been fun, what's not been fun, etc.
yeah. I mean, I guess that raises a question for me, and the question is like, as the as the whole dinner as a family experience has disappeared, how do you think that has affected the world as a whole? And like, what can we do to begin to counteract some of the more negative effects that you and I both see? I
Hmm.
think, right? And I think, in essence, that may be part of this podcast is just trying to recreate some of the connections with ourselves and with others and just create some of the like magic that life can offer
Yeah.
in pretty simple experiences. But I feel like as people don't sit down together anymore and don't experience food and don't experience meals like in a real kind of sense of community, there's significant issues and problems that arise from that.
Yeah. And I will answer that question after the break. Well, yeah, there's that as well. All right. So first we'll answer your question, which was kind of a broad generalization.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I think the first thing is like realizing I mean, first of all, like for people that aren't accustomed to sitting down at the dinner table and having a meal, it can kind of be scary because it's like if you don't have that social skill,
It's pretty intense.
it is intense,
Yeah.
but it's like taking small steps, right? So I would do it in the format of like if you have a friend or if you have someone that you trust or like you can find with your buddies, just like go sit down at like a coffee shop. Just like have a coffee, a real quick coffee, or like 15 minutes, right?
Mm.
And gradually work towards it, right? And then, getting involved with cooking and whatnot's great because the thing about like ordering fast food or like pizza is that usually is catered to like you get something real quick and then you'll sit down and like you'll watch a Netflix show or whatnot.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, like, I was dating someone and we would do stuff like that. And it was fun and it was a way of connecting and whatnot. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. But if that's all you ever do, I don't think you're mixing it up enough. And it's a bad, like kind of coping. Like you have to be entertain. You talk about like iPad kids that would like sit down at the dinner table, like when you go out to eat at a restaurant and they just have an iPad in front of them. They're just watching some YouTuber they like or some, toy review or whatever it is. And then they don't develop the skills or don't realize when you're sitting down at a table how awkward it can be if you don't have that stimulus, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that can affect when you start to get into the dating scene and when you get into high school, when you have to, be in front of people and you can't have those things that you use to give you comfort, right? And this kind of goes into our last episode we talked about is just like stepping outside of your comfort zone is like just kind of like gradually work towards it. And I think you'll just start to see a sense of community,
Yeah.
and you'll also start to be able to pick out who isn't a good sense in your community, right? Like if you sit down with someone at the dinner table, right? Like if I bring you to my dinner table at home and you don't behave in a manner that meshes well with my family,
Yeah.
you're not going to be around for long,
Yeah.
right? I'm not
Absolutely.
you're just in my life, you're going to live. I'm not going to hurt you, but like,
You're not going
it
to
sounded a little bit
disappear.
like, yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
get someone to whack you. But no, so I think that's what you should do. And I think it just will help with just communication in general, right? Communication in relationships, communication with friends, communication in the workplace throughout life,
Yeah.
right? You'll start to develop and see what is passive aggressive, what's a better way to talk about things. And my dad was telling you, and a big thing he did for us is like a learning lesson as we were children. It was like we would get so frustrated that we would cry as boys, and I know women get it as well. But it was this thing that he was noticing with us, and it was because we weren't able to articulate why we were upset. And there's this really amazing martial art kind of like coach, and he has this gym, and it's only catered to men. Not to say that women don't experience this problem as well, but this guy does it specifically for men, and he does great work. But I'll show you a video of it sometime and maybe we'll react to it. But he works with these boys that come from impoverished homes, from places where they don't have fathers, and he just teaches them how to like deal with these problems and like how it's okay to cry and like work through these things. It's really powerful stuff.
Oh
Like it's
man.
really 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 cool. We will watch it sometime for sure. But it just helps, and, it's something that recently has happened in, like, my life, and Highland got to kinda share while we were sitting in that, room where we kinda get to look out into, as we call it, the fishbowl. So my grandma and grandpa both have dementia, and they've had it for a while now, and, like, I've accepted it. It's sad, and we try to use humor to get through it, but recently, my grandpa had to go to the hospital and whatnot. And now he's on hospice. So he's kind of towards the end of his life. So he's at home and just kind of trying to live out his last days. And the problem is that like it just affects my dad so much because it's very interesting. So like my dad did not get along with his mom and dad as a child, and there's a lot of underlying issues, and that's his kind of story to talk about. But like I heard stories that just made me go like, wow, right? And so that's what really reinforced him to do this stuff, like the dinner table, to get
Yeah.
us to all like get along as a family. And now he's kind of like been this like caregiver to them, constantly going over there. And now that dementia's kind of taken its toll, like they don't really remember what they've done or the way that they treated him. And they kind of revert back to like a toddler, if you will, right? They're very confused. They don't know what's going on. So I see my dad going through all of this, and it's like really tough because you just
Yeah.
want to like make him feel lighter, feel better. And like, we talked about it and you try to like see the good side in it, but it's like, there's not a lot.
No.
There's not a lot of light to be made from it.
No.
So we were sitting down there and my dad got to share it. And it just kind of like having that ability to talk about something that's like so terrible and tough to deal with helps, right? It sucks in the moment because it's emotional or it's hard, but it just helps people like work through it, get through it by getting it out there instead of repressing it. You can kind of start to talk about it and start to realize where people are at, right? It
Yeah.
it, it helps you kind of understand like, man, like Rowan's not really talkative today. Like what's going on? And it's like, well, yeah, there's a lot behind closed doors that you might not know about, right? And so it's not something that like I'm okay. Like I've kind of dealt with it in my own respective way and kind of accepted it. But now it's just gotten to this point where like I just want my dad to be like done with it because it's like such a burden and it causes so much stress. And like my grandma is combative and they have like so originally they wanted to put them into like this nursing home that was really nice, that would have like memory care and whatnot. And the problem is that they didn't get on the wait list quick enough, and then my grandma's dementia got to a point where now she has to be in a different care unit than my grandpa,
Mm.
and so they would be separated. And
Oh,
so we felt terrible.
yeah.
So we wanted to keep them together, but at the same time, them being together, like they are so confused and they have such a big house. My grandpa was a very successful lawyer, so he did very well for himself. So he has a really big home and whatnot. And it just, caused such a internal conflict for my dad because then he has to like go over there all the time. Like he's been called while he's been on shift as a firefighter and is
Yeah.
bringing the whole entire fire truck and his battalion over there.
Yeah.
Right. And just to, like help out. And so it causes this huge amount of stress. And like me being home, right, when I was in Minnesota, like I just heard stories about it. I didn't really get to experience it. You can kind of like detach from it, right? Because you're not there in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm in it and I can see it. And it's definitely it's not hard. I mean, it is hard. Like I got to see my grandpa the other day, and it was like, whew, like damn, this is like the reality of life. And to give some context, like my family has not ever like I haven't had any real death or grieving in my family
Mm.
yet. My granddad died, which is my mom's dad, but we weren't as close. I mean, don't get me wrong, loved him and everything, but it wasn't as the same impact. Because like when we were kids, we would go over to my grandma and grandpa's every single day during the summer. And my mom would, it was essentially like our daycare was going over there.
Yeah.
So a lot of memories in that house and whatnot. So, and all that, like, and with dementia, it like starts to change because they don't remember that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right. So it takes you out of it. So,
Ooh.
yeah,
Okay, that's a lot.
it's a lot.
But just so you know, and again, like these are questions you're totally in charge if you want to answer or not. But like, does this experience make you value the opportunities that you get to just sit like with your dad in the fishbowl or with your mom at the dinner table or whatever it may be? Does it just give that added extra importance? Does it just allow you to appreciate things just
Yeah,
that bit
absolutely. It
more?
makes me like so much more emotional when they're happening.
I hear you're like, I think when people listen to this
Oh, everyone can tell
episode,
I'm on the edge.
yeah,
I'm dancing.
yeah, it's I like I like it though, and I appreciate it. But man, like I can hear the
Yeah,
struggle
yeah, yeah.
for sure.
So, and it's like talking about it's good because you don't know how you really feel about something until you like express it.
Well, I know how you're feeling.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
I have
yeah,
some
yeah,
idea,
yeah,
only a
right.
little bit, but
And no, it definitely does make me appreciate so much more because now I'm like, at any moment you could forget all of it. Jesus, come on, get it together.
no, man.
I know it's fine, but I want to be able to articulate well. But yeah, like the hardest thing. Okay, emotional time. So when I first came back home, right, my grandma like escapes a lot, and we always make a joke about it. But she like escapes, and the helpers like don't know, or I don't know. First of all, I don't mean to say helpers, like I don't know the correct terminology for them, right? But
Healthcare
we
professionals.
have healthcare professionals that have been hired to be at the house to help take care of them because they cannot take care of themselves. They can't feed themselves. They can't bathe themselves. So like it's a tough situation. So if I say helpers, I don't want to say this in any light way. Like these women and men that work are fucking saints. Like I
Yeah,
can't thank them enough, right? So, but my grandma had gone out and she just likes to walk the neighborhood and she walked over here because she knows like we live in the same neighborhood. So she knows where my dad lives. And she walked over and one of the neighbors saw her walking and walked with her because she knew that like she probably shouldn't be out because she sounded very confused and whatnot, and she had some dirt on her leg. And essentially, what happened was is that she walked over, and I just said like I was in the shower, and I heard a ring at the door. I was like, "What is going on?" So I had to run out downstairs and get dressed and everything, and run out there, and grandma's there, and this is my first time being back home after moving from Minnesota. So I had been here for like a week, and I was like, "All right, grandma, do you want to drive over? Do you want to walk?" And I'm just like, "Let me try and enjoy this time with her because I haven't gotten to see her in a very long time, and I know where she's at." And it was a lovely walk, right? And but I got to see firsthand like how the dementia affects someone, right? And while I was talking with her, I recorded the actual conversation on my phone secretly. I don't know why, but I wanted to kind of like, I don't know, capture the moment or something. Where I don't think you should do that. I think you should pay attention, but I just did it as like a side thing. I'm in a podcast and audio and all that stuff. So I recorded it, and at one part of it, I was talking with her, and I like got very emotional with her as I was pushing her in a wheelchair because she had what happened is she got out of the house. She had fallen, but she doesn't remember falling. So she had like dirt on her knees and dirt on her fingernails. And you ask her like, "Oh, grandma, did you fall?" And she's like, "No, I didn't fall." But she doesn't. She doesn't remember. She had to have fallen, right? No one puts dirt on her leg or on her fingernails. And while we were walking, I was recalling how we used to go over there in the morning, and she would make chocolate chip pancakes, and it was just like a big part of our childhood. And it was tough.
That's okay. Buddy. I mean, I'm more like if you want to share, I'm more than willing to just hang out. If it's too much, it's
No,
too much.
I like sharing it. Just like when you start crying so much you can't speak.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it was tough to share with her because like she doesn't remember, but like I do, and that's pretty like special. So it does help me appreciate all the moments I like have with people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think on that, like unless I'm gonna kind of end it on that and just say uh, like that. One, appreciate you just going there. I know that's not easy, and I'm trying desperately not to start crying. Also, but I mean that's an amazing story, and you didn't have to go there, and it's just like I think that's the bravery and the beautifulness and the vulnerability and the radical honesty that this is all about, and like I love you, buddy. So,
I love you
but
too.
also just like appreciate like chocolate chip pancake moments with your grandma, and like take care of each other and be good to each other. We don't know what the future holds, and for some of us, the future might hold less memories than we have right now, and yeah,
Well, I
it's a
did.
heavy day. It's a
Very
heavy
heavy
day.
day. But like this is part of the radical honesty that we're all about. And
Yeah,
I am happy to share. And it just goes to show like with something like that, like it's a disease of the brain, like it starts to decay. And at any moment you could forget all of those special times like at the dinner table
yeah.
or sharing a meal. And I know this initially was supposed to be about like the fun and joy of sharing food. But like, yeah, I mean, we did relate it.
Surprise.
Banana pancakes are food, right? And
Yeah,
that was special. And yeah, just enjoy the moments you have with people because you never know if later in life you'll forget them.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. With that being said, if you ever want to reach out to us, it's NopeOpePod@gmail.com. The book is still available in the podcast description. If you want to check out some of Highland's artwork, those are available also on that website. And yeah, sorry for crying so much. I'm not apologizing.
Yeah,
I think
don't
it's
say
it's
sorry.
okay to cry. It's just that it's hard to speak when there's that many emotions, because there's more I could say on it. And like I know it's a tough thing to hear and be around. And I appreciate you asking the questions. And all right, if anyone ever wants to hear more about it, feel free to email. I'd be happy to share kind of my experience. But I can't even imagine what my dad goes through, because I'm an emotional guy. But I've seen him cry once. Like, he keeps this on lock. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tough situation. But with all that being said, we appreciate you watching and listening, and we'll see
Well,
you.
can I just add one more thing
Yeah.
too? Let's if you're listening to this podcast, I think you're a special type of individual to begin with, but let's really reach out and take care of each other and kind of just offer love and support and maybe just put a hug out there and just take care of each other, because none of us know the battles that everybody's going through. Nobody knows how heavy life can get, and let's just be there for each other. Let's just be good to each other. Let's take care of each other and be there for each other in a very real sense. And let's be in connection. Let's be in community. Let's share food. Let's share feelings. Let's share love. Let's be good to each other.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, guys, we appreciate it.
Phew.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Oh, man.
What the heck happened there?
I didn't even realize this is one of my grandma and grandpa's mugs while I was doing it. What a ironic, beautiful moment.
Woo. Okay, we have 3 really good ones.
We do. Yeah. So.
Dang. What?
Thanks, man.
You're freaking. Oh, okay. Now I can cry, but oh my God, man. What the heck?
Yeah.
Dang. Whew.